Welcome to Citizens Review. This is the Independence version of Citizens Review. Last week, we talked about the Independence Review. This week, we do part 2. And so that you remember, it's called the Independent Review, these yet-to-be independent islands of the Bahamas, where the wealth has yet to become common. First, I want to acknowledge that I am in my independence regalia. I dress like a standing Bahamian flag here in the Olympic uniform. This was given to me by one of our most beautiful Olympians, Alana Delat. And so I said that I would wear it today in recognition of the independence of the Bahamas. But I just want y'all to know, these suits, they just make you feel fast. Boom, Chris Brown and all of them runners and Derek Atkins setting records. I see why, as 300,000 people, we able to beat some of the greatest countries in the world, because they got these super outfits. So we got to sell these for independence. Thank the Lord, some businessmen are making some money and selling independence paraphernalia. But this week, I want to talk about what independence means to us, what it's really all about. Before we get into that, though, I want to say thank you. I watched a program, ZNS good for something every once in a while. I saw a program on there that talked about the symbols of independence. And they had Dr. Hervis Bain, who designed the coat of arms, and he went into great detail. And Dr. Bain was a young man at the time, young Bahamian artist, studied off the school, came back home, and he designed the coat of arms. And it was beautiful. He talked about the flamingo on one side standing in the marshland and the marlin on the other side coming out of the ocean. And listen, that's beautiful. That's what the Bahamas, that's when you start to feel independence. That's when it becomes real to you and you say, I'm a Bahamian. Like KB in the song say, I's a Bahamian. That's when it becomes real. Or Phil Stubbs says, I'm proud to be a Bahamian in his song. And then you have others like Dr. Ramming, who wrote The Pledge, went off to school, came back young Bahamian, just like Penling was, just like all the other framers of the Constitution was, young, strong, energetic, but proud, bold, independent, accurate Bahamians, willing to stand in the gap where we needed assistance as a people, willing to extend to us education. These are the things that independence represents for us. But we also have to, and I don't want to forget, Priscilla Rollins, who took our vernacular and molded it into a beautiful song. Because when written in proper English, it don't make as much sense, but it's beautiful in Bahamian vernacular. And that is what independence is all about. If you never heard the song, it's Independence morning is like a baby born. That's Bahamian. That's when you start to feel the rich culture. They should get Priscilla Rollins to sing that song out on Independence Park and let people know what it sounded like back in the day. But after we do the reflection, and this is with no disrespect to the Independence Committee, because the theme is through the eyes of our youth. I believe that's the theme, if I'm incorrect. It's something in that area. We have to start to do exactly what they suggest. Look at independence through the eyes of our youth. And when we do that, we start to see a very different Bahamas. A Bahamas with high crime rates and violence and low levels of education and low access to education and social challenges, business challenges, the average small businessman catching hell every day. So then we start to go into what I call the independent review of these yet-to-be independent islands of the Bahamas where the wealth has yet to become common. Because although we celebrate that Dr. Hervis Bain gave us this coat of arms, and Timothy Gibson gave us this beautiful song, March on Bahamaland. Everything he wrote in the song, I heard a radio show host talk about it, everything he wrote in the song was positive, forward moving, look to the future, march on Bahamas, the road you've trod leads unto your goal. Everything is forward thinking. While we appreciate that, now we have to conduct the analysis. And we have to be truthful in the analysis, so that when our children and our children's children look at what we have done up to this 37-year point, they could say, okay, we've marked the manner of our bearing, and we've moved, trod forward to our goal. That's what the song asks us to do. So let's, in this Independence time, we're calm, we're collected, we're excited, we're happy we got the colors on, we're rolling out to the tattoo, and we're going to see the police and do all their thing. And I've heard this year they have young people dancing, and that's exciting. But we have to look at what else is going on beyond the excitement. Independence can't just be about these stripes and these colors. They bright now, Lord. You can't even see me because of all this bright aqua thing. But independence can't just be about the colors. It has to be about the people. It has to be about the forward movement of those people, the equal access of those people, the fair treatment of those people, the forward movement of the entire country. And so we will begin to look at whether or not we have taken steps to do that. And if we have taken steps, has there been some continuity? Have we kept doing that? Have we showed ourselves 37 years worth of continued and followed through progress? And if not, then we talk about it. And if we haven't, then we got work to do. But that too is the call of independence, not just to celebrate, not just to be festive, but also to be contemplative. Welcome back to the show. I hope you listened carefully before the break to Perez rule. That is truly what we mean by through the eyes of our youth. Let young people talk. And so you'll see, as throughout the show, we're going to have a lot of young people talking and letting you know how they feel about the Bahamas, what they think the future is, and whether they think we have a bright future. Because they are really the ones that are going to have to push us into the next level. Now, when discussing the idea of moving forward, the first thing we have to do, and trust me, this week, in preparing this show, I felt a strong burden, because I know a lot of people watch the show and a lot of people laugh and they say, man, this fella must be going crazy because of the things he says and all of that stuff. And like I say, you got to say what you got to say before you're dead. And that's what I believe. But I also believe in the responsibility I have, if there are young people watching this show right now, to educate them and to do it accurately. But we have to be prepared as a country to think about these things. And I keep saying that. I say think, think, think. Let me show you what I mean by think. I brought with me a mock-up of a raffle ticket. Let's see. This is a raffle ticket, right? And it says on it, raffle ticket. I made this myself. The Catholic Church makes their raffle tickets. I made up my own raffle ticket. And it says on it, raffle ticket, name, number, email, contact information, and what is being raffled off is a car. Now, see, this is right here, right? And see, at the bottom of it, it's very critical that you see that. At the bottom of it is a number. That's what you got to see. All right? Now, here's the thing. When you get a raffle ticket, and I'm addressing the conversation I had last week about the Catholic Archbishop and the Catholic Church being in a numbers business. And I got an email, and the lady told me that she appreciates my show, she loves my show, but I'm not accurate. I'm wrong, dead wrong. She said that the Catholic Church doesn't do gambling 365 days a year. She said that I need to apologize to the Archbishop immediately and apologize to the Catholic Church. And I said, okay, this is a citizen. You have to consider what she's saying. And she said that the Catholic Church does not engage in gambling. Gambling is not illegal. Raffling is not illegal. That is why they can do it. And she also said that there's nowhere in the Bible, this is what she said, there's nowhere in the Bible that says that you can't gamble. Now, I ain't even getting into that because I don't have enough time on my show to discuss where in the Bible and what the Bible says about gambling. Last week, I made a simple point. I said, if the Catholic Archbishop comes out against gambling, then the Catholic Church has to stop the raffles. Let me break down why raffles are no different than numbers. When you buy your raffle ticket, it has a number on it. The only reason you fill your name and stuff in is because they have to know who to contact when your number is called. Well, let me explain what numbers is. When you play the 3-ball, the 2-ball, 4-ball, the play 5, all them in Florida, you pick your numbers, and if your numbers match, would come up when the white girl get on TV and the beautiful model and all the numbers bubble up, and she pick a number out, and she pick out 6 numbers, and if your numbers match, you win. Well, here's the difference with raffle. You get a preset number. You don't get to choose your number, but you get a preset number. And that preset number has to match when they have the big ball and they roll the thing and all the tickets are inside with your stub broken off from it. See, they just broke your stub off and they tear it. And they just have one with your number and one with the other number. 2 stubs. And they take this stub and they throw it in the bucket. Boom. That one in the bucket. And your stub got your information. You carry this home. This got your number on it. And you need this one with your number. And once you do that, you wait for them to pull a ticket out. And when they call off the number, if that's your number, you win. The only difference between raffling and buying numbers is that buying numbers, you get to choose the numbers. Raffling, you get a preset number. But it's still a game of chance. You're still waiting for the pretty lady at the basket to roll it, or wait until the air push the bubbles up to pick a number out and choose. So is the Catholic Church participating in gaming? To any rational individual, absolutely. Should they come out with statements that say that they don't participate in gaming if they in fact do? No, they shouldn't. But these are simple questions. In an independent Bahamas, we should be able to simply identify that you're all gambling, so don't talk no foolishness about stop gambling, about putting an end to gambling. Because it doesn't make sense. That's thinking, basic evidence, basic argument. But sometimes we can't even get past that. And I have no apology for the Catholic Church. If anything, they should apologize to me for giving duplicitous statements in public and confusing Catholics. If anything, they should issue an apology. But if they're not willing to, that's fine, because the argument is clear. Most people see it, most people get it. Maybe not a few Catholics, maybe not a few other people. But these are the questions that we have to start dealing with in an independent Bahamas. How could we achieve any sort of real independence if we can't begin to discuss these basic issues? Everybody gets personal. Everybody gets touchy. Everybody says, oh, well you talk about me and you this, that. When I address Mr. Hubert Ingram or Mr. Perry Christie on this show, I'm not addressing them as my personal friends. I'm not personal friends of either of those gentlemen. I'm addressing the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. And we pay them to do that. That's a conversation that is held in an independent Bahamas, where the media is free to ask the questions that need to be asked and prod for the answers that people want. Politicians nowadays don't come. They tell you, man, I ain't talking about that. We talked about in the last Elizabeth election, a debate. We had a debate. Dr. Dwayne Sand said, no, he ain't coming. The FNM's position was they didn't feel it was necessary. Independence is the question. And are we showing the signs that we've achieved true independence? Let me give you an interesting historical fact. Our independence in the Bahamas, back in the, I think it was in the 40s, the British Parliament issued a declaration that they were going to free the colonies because the colonies were too expensive to upkeep. It was too expensive. So the British said, listen, when you're all ready, come to Britain, get your independence, you all go about your way, pay for yourself to live because it's costing us too much. So Kwame Nkrumah was one of the first in what was called the Gold Coast, now known as Ghana in Africa, West Africa. Mr. Nkrumah went to Britain as the elected chief minister of Ghana and brought independence. And he also called for independence for Africa. He was behind the idea of the United States of Africa. Well, the Bahamas did the same thing. We went and Mr. Penling petitioned and we got our independence as a matter of procedure. I don't want people to believe it was no big, we gone to London and sacked the parliament. And it's very simple. We requested, they granted. But here are the other challenges. Our independence is as a result of an act of the British Parliament. Acts can be rescinded at any point, just so you know. But it's an act of British Parliament. So we've never really, as a country, declared independence. We were issued independence. And if you're ever confused about that, just drive up Shirley Street and past the big pink house we call Government House. There's a gentleman in there named Sir Arthur Foulkes, and he is the representative of the Queen. That's who he works for. That's his boss. Every time a member of Parliament swears in, he swears allegiance to the Queen. A senator swears in, he swears allegiance to the Queen. To the Queen. Public servants, allegiance to Her Majesty. So these are independence questions. These are the things that we have to start to address in an independent Bahamas. But we got to be able to do it in a realistic and quick way. Not where I say raffle is gaming and people say, oh no, apologize. Come on, man. Come on. We ain't past that yet. It's gaming. If you want to do it in your little corner, then fine. But when we catch you, you're doing foolishness. It is what it is. Or don't come out with a public statement saying that it's wrong because you're doing it. Independence questions from an independent, accurate, and bold show. That's what Citizens Review is here to do. That's what we set it up for. That's what we're going to continue doing. So I'm going to show you another clip from one of the young persons at the conference last week with Stacey Williams and Total Image. And we're going to listen to the young people talk. Let's hear independence through the eyes of our youth. That's what they say the theme is. So we can do it real time on Citizens Review. Let's check this out. We'll be back after the clip and a commercial break.
I'm here with Tatiana Forbes. She's also a graduate of C.R. Walker, and she's here to tell us how her experience has been at this conference. Tatiana.
My experience so far has been excellent. I mean, it's very beneficial. I've learned a lot. Neil Alice spoke to us yesterday, and I've learned that everything begins with me. And I took repeat his word, and I'm sure that it will take me far enough.
Based on what you've seen here, Tatiana, what do you think the future of the Bahamas is?
Seeing her today at this conference?
Well, yeah, during your time yesterday and today, what all you've learned, what do you think the future of the Bahamas is?
But so far, we've just had yesterday, I haven't seen the speakers today, but the future of the Bahamas compared to there, you have a lot of future doctors and business officers and business owners, CEOs, and I think that it's pretty good. I mean, compared to other students who did not make 3-point GPA, which is pretty bad on other people's behalf, but I feel like it is great, that it's very prosperous. If everybody in there just keep their eye on the prize, I think that the future will be pretty bright for the Bahamas. That's based on those people in there.
What is one of the things that you hope to take away from this conference when you leave? Something that you want to apply to your life and perhaps pass on to your friends and your peers?
Oh, I mean, it's so hard to choose. Everything has been so good. I mean, but really, I'm a person who people usually say I don't push or whatever. I feel like I'll be able to prove them wrong from this conference. I'm sure I'll prove people wrong. Everybody who spoke, beneficial information for me, and it will help me in my goals in life.
Welcome back to the show. Now, I want to bring in some external review of independence. Last week, when I told you I got the name of this show this week, the Independent Review, these yet to be independent islands of the Bahamas where the wealth has yet to become common. I got that name from pulling information from a lady named Dr. Marguerite Johnson. You know her as Maya Angelou. And also from Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist movement carrier in the early United States years back in the 1800s. He carried forth a lot of abolitionist movement writings, publications, all of that stuff. Frederick Douglass, the Freedmen's Bureau. You can look it up and find out information. But in 1887, Frederick Douglass was asked to give a speech. And I get this from the theme, through the eyes of our youth. Because young people ask the question, how relevant is this independence idea to us? Has it proven to be continually relevant? Is it more than just a flag? That's the big question. So when Frederick Douglass was asked to speak, of course, slavery was still in as a concept. And his beginning of his speech was, "Fellow citizens, pardon me and allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those that I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express the devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us?" That's Frederick Douglass's question. Now, all of that is not relevant to us, but the part that is that Frederick Douglass questions independence. He says that independence is fine, that's nice, but is it relevant to the people who you're talking to? Well, let's ask some questions. Let's talk about education. I went to some graduations to give away the Citizens of the Year award. And none of the schools graduated more than 60%. Did you know that? 60%. That means that 40% of all the graduates, the supposed graduates, are graduating with what my daddy used to call thank you Lordy. Not cum laude, not magna cum laude, but thank you Lordy. Leaving certificate. Well, when you get a leaving certificate, what you supposed to do with that? That speaks to challenges in our education system. Is independence relevant to them? I don't know. I just asking the questions. Then you look at the 60% that graduated. In one school I went to, it was 55%. Half not graduating. But you look at the set that did graduate, and only 4 or 5 of them over 3.0. You say, well, my God, what we doing? So if only 4 or 5 of them over 3.0, the rest of the entire graduating class is between 2.99 and 2.0, and the majority was below 2.5. And then you wonder, what we doing? What going on? Are the children being educated? You start to, I had a fella come to me the other day, he just started a business. And he said the hardest thing in the world to do is to find people to work. Because when you find people, even though they're interested in working, they can't read and write. What is that in an independent country? Does that speak to a sort of independence that is relevant to that child who had all of the ability to read and write, but we failed them? Is that independence? What is that? What does that speak to? I'm not sure. And then I asked some other questions. The small businessman in the Bahamas who would serve as the backbone of this economy, look at their challenges. The banking laws. My God, these banks have been allowed to rape Bahamians blind. Legally. A certified check is $6, 600% more than it is in the average country. You could go to 7-Eleven in America, buy a certified money draft for 99 cents. In the Bahamas, $6. They're getting ready to raise it. But I don't want you to believe that these banks can pay the fees that the government just raised. They can charge that to us. What is the interest rate they offer? Bank of the Bahamas is the only one that seems to want to offer something semi-reasonable. What about when you carry cash in and you want to start a business? I had a young Bahamian who was doing studies in the U.S., finished his studies. He started working, was a high-ranking executive at a young age in a large company in the U.S. I don't want to call the names, telecommunications company, doing very well. Gathered up almost $600,000 and said, listen, I'm coming back home. Cash. He said, when I put that in the bank, what do I get for that? I said, my brother, you get $600,000. They can take your $600, put it on a CD. And if you ain't doing a business that they find to be stable, which is very few, then they can give you back $600,000 after they done put your money on a CD until you spend your own money. And they can charge you interest on the $600 they give you and give you interest on the CD. So by the time as you subtract the interest they charging you from the interest they're giving you, you're wasting your time. What kind of banking system is that? Garbage. But it's the Bahamas. It's the independent Bahamas. I suggest to you, yet to be independent. Let's talk about the utility companies. What they think going on? BEC used to be solvent. Now it ain't solvent. And we can't figure out what's going on. And Mr. Nemor believes it's sensible to suggest to us, as opposed to a real solution to power in the Bahamas, they can build another Bunker C plant, which is ludicrous in the 21st century, in Abaco, and then want to charge us 5% more. What they think going on? This must be a free-for-all on Bahamians, the citizens to whom independence is supposed to be relevant. I have a problem with that. Yet to be independent islands of the Bahamas, where the wealth has yet to become common. Let's look at the access to resources. Business persons. The stamp tax just went up. So now you want to go and start a business. You want to buy a piece of land. That's where it stops, right there. If you're a young Bahamian and you want to start a business, if you're an old Bahamian, you want to start any kind of Bahamian, business is the hardest thing to get going. And then when you get it going, your power bill, before you even could squeeze $1 out to buy your children food, you done pay it all to BEC and the water company and this company and that company, and you can't see returns. The tax system, unfair at best. You think the big stores just pay the taxes? No, they charge it to us. Who are the consumers? The underprivileged. Most of us who buying everything don't own stores, so we pay in most of the taxes. So the whole country is riding on us to pay for the bills. How could that be fair? Independence, or yet to be independent islands of the Bahamas, and the wealth is certainly not common. What about what the Bible calls the least of these? What about them? What about the least of these? Let's talk about them. The handicapped, or the disabled. Excuse me, some people find the word handicap a little aggressive or insulting. The disabled. What about the poor? What about people who don't have access to even buying their uniform they need to go to free government school. Where's the future for them? If you have educated Bahamians with bachelor's and master's degrees coming home and can't find jobs, then where are these children going who can't even afford the uniform to go to free government school? And then when grade 12 reach, they've been matriculated through the system and they get thank you, Lordy, and they say, all right, go home now, go get a job. Where are they going? What is the future for them? I ask you, these are the questions for independent Bahamas. These are the difficult questions, which is why we don't have time to waste with personalities like Ingram and Christie and the Catholic Church and whether they feel like numbers is numbers. We got real things to talk about, real issues. I say, these yet to be independent islands of the Bahamas, where the wealth has yet to become common. Let's listen to another youth before we go to the break. Let's hear what these young people have to say.
I'm here with Mrs. Shanette Culmer. She is a 2010 graduate of C.R. Walker. And Shanette, it's good to have you with us. Shanette, my first question to you is, how has your experience been at this conference?
My experience at this conference has been a very rewarding one. I feel as though it's very imperative that we are able to learn the business skills needed in order to market ourselves on the job. In our school system, it is an option that we take business, but I think it should be mandatory because we really need to know a little bit more about how to really present ourselves in interviews and how to introduce ourselves and do handshakes so that we can be well prepared for this world, especially in the economy right now. We really need to know how to market ourselves because there's so many other competitions, so many people out of jobs who actually have degrees. So we really need to know a little bit more about those things. I'm very ebullient that I've been given the opportunity to be in a program like this because so many people have not been given that opportunity to actually take this, and this is very important.
Based on what you've seen, Shanette, what do you think the future of the Bahamas looks like?
Right now, I think the future of the Bahamas is pretty grim because of the fact that of the economic condition and the recession, and so many people are being laid off right now, and so many students have just graduated from high school, over 5,000, and all of us are looking for jobs. So right now you really need to know a little bit more about the interview and how to really present yourself in order to get that job because there's so many competition. But I think that right now in the country the money is still here, nothing has left the planet, so there's still hope for all of us. All we need to know is how to get it, and that's what this program is really teaching us.
You spent some time at this conference. What is one of the things that you hope to take away from this conference that you can apply to yourself?
I would hope to take away that we should always have a vision and a dream and a plan for our future and actually think it through completely, because you can't just start at a point and not know where your end product is going to be and where you really want to get. So you really need to know what you want from the beginning to the end. So that's what I want to take away from this conference.
Now, I understand that you guys had a voting going on yesterday, and some of you said that in the 2012 election, you won't vote PLP nor FNM. If there was a viable third party in the Bahamas, would you still vote?
I would vote, but I would have to be sure that there are a whole lot of people actually backing that up, because I feel as though that in this time everyone who's graduating is actually voting what their parents want. They want to follow their parents. They want to vote either PLP or FNM. But I feel as though these parties are already exhausted. We already know what PLP can do. We already know what FNM can do. And when we get tired of one party, we're just voting in the other one. And that's not actually showing any change. What we really need is something new, someone innovative. We can start with a new party, and actually, if we have all of these 2012 graduates and 2011 and 2010 graduates, we can actually make that change and make a difference. But we all have to work together to actually make that change.
Thank you, Shanette. That was Shanette Culmer. She is a 2010 graduate at C.R. Walker Senior High School.
Welcome back to Citizens Review, where we're discussing independence. We use the theme, an independent review, these yet-to-be independent islands of the Bahamas, where the wealth has yet to become common. Now, we've talked about some social issues, we've talked about some business issues. Now, let's talk a little bit about the political issues. In the Bahamas, post-independence, we would have thought that we would have gotten some level of political maturity. We would start to experience a country where, if a leader of a party loses an election, they would resign and allow the party to move forward. Or if a man is prime minister for a certain amount of time, after that time has expired, he would resign or allow someone else to lead the party. But we've experienced something very, very different from that. In fact, let's look at some numbers. In the last 50 years, with the PLP as a party, they've had 2 leaders. 50 years, almost. 2 leaders. That's ridiculous. Independence is the question. And that is no signal of independence. The F&M, since they've been formed, they've had 3 real leaders. And then you had, Tommy. They had Kendall Isaacs, Cecil Wallace Whitfield, who was the first. And then they had Hubert Ingram. And Hubert Ingram allowed Tommy to, have some fun for about 5 years. We all know better. And Tommy Turnquest was also the leader, but he didn't win his seat in Parliament, so he never led the party in Parliament. I think Alvin Smith, who is now the Speaker of the House, led the party in Parliament and during that time. But 3 leaders since your party started. That's somewhat closer to reasonable, but it's still not reasonable. Because for the last 15 out of the last 20 years, if you use 2012 as a marker, Mr. Ingram would have been the Prime Minister. Yet again, another Prime Minister who seems like they want to overstay some time. Mr. Pinling was Prime Minister for 25 years. And in 1992, Bahamians showed some disdain for the fact that he'd stayed for too long. But an independent Bahamas is supposed to show different signs of growth. You want to see mature growth. You want to see a politics that is not all about the play of 2 men. That's not mature. You want to see a politics that Sir Lyndon Pinland envisioned in the beginning. A PLP and another party, the F&M. The PLP had to join with the Labour Party to create their majority in 1967. That was when our politics had experienced a level of maturity. When the UBP gracefully, they fight hard, but they lost. And they bowed down and they closed their party up, and they go and join up and start the F&M with new faces, new vision, new ideas. This is maturity, but we're not experiencing it. For example, since 2002, on the PLP side, they only have 1 new member of Parliament, Picewell Forbes. Every single other person is the same. I suppose that, that ain't nobody else interested. That is a challenge. You have, in 2012, it appears as though Mr. Ingram and Mr. Christie are going to run against each other again. That I can't even describe how silly that even sounds. Think about that. Men who entered politics in the early 70s, still trying to be Prime Minister of the country. I mean, independent Bahamas. This is why we ask the question, is this independence relevant to the child who is illiterate because they went to our schools and we undereducated them? And it's cute to say, these children don't want to learn. But my grandma used to say, when you start to blame the children, you're really sad. Because it ain't the children. Children come out the womb willing to learn. Anything you have to teach them. And then here's another argument. If 40, 50% of them can't read, then maybe it's a systematic problem and not just a problem with the children. These children, if you take them and you talk to them individually, they are excited about life. They want to have access to opportunity, but have been denied in the most case. But have we in an independent Bahamas gone about a process to give them the kind of opportunity that they need? And it makes no sense saying, oh, well, I own this big company and I grew up in the ghetto. So all the rest of the children all over the Bahamas could make it because I made it. It don't make no sense telling the children that. Because there's a systematic problem. Not a problem of just ambition. There is a systematic problem. And so our children are being disadvantaged on the wholesale. They are beautiful baby girls and baby boys that just want access to all. They're beautiful children. If you go to the schools, you see them. They're so excited about life. Go talk to them. But they don't get the kind of opportunity that they need. And it's our fault. And we will suffer from it. I heard about these summits on crime, this and crime. It's only 300,000 people in the Bahamas. The solution of crime is simple: growth. But we have leaders that have exhausted their innovation. They can't give us nothing no more, and they've proven that for the last 10, 15 years. They're out of ideas. But yet, we still vote them in. Let me ask you a question. We talked about this. Look into yourself and give me 10 reasons why you voted what you voted last election. 10 reasons. Do you have 10 reasons? This is a question to the Bahamian. 10 reasons. And if you don't have 10, be ashamed of yourself. Because those same beautiful little children live in your house. And you drive them to school. And you tell them, focus on a future. But you voting, and when you go in the booth, you cover your eyes and vote for a color. Think about it, man. Think about it. Can we even yield the kind of change for ourselves that we ask for? I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. I am hopeful. My God, I'm hopeful. But I doubt it. You know why I doubt it? Because the fellow on the street tell me, boy, even if Jesus Christ himself go run under a different banner than the PLP and FNM, they'll vote against Jesus. Now that's an extreme example. But the question is simple. If the change we want to see came and stared us right in the face, would you go to the ballot box and think about why you're voting? Or would you vote color? Red, yellow, purple, aqua, color. Purple and aqua is BDM and NDP. Would you vote color? We have to start to think. Our freedom and independence in a real sense will not come until we take on the responsibility of taking charge of this country the way that we know that we can. And before I go to break, there's a young fella named Quincy Arthur. Let me tell you about Quincy. Last week I was so sad, boy. I started looking at the prospects for education and all of that for children. And I met Quincy, and Quincy, he's so excited and exuberant and talking about, the country and the Bahamas and how he thinks things could happen and change. And I get a new burst of energy. Quincy is excited, man. He wants a country for him and his children when he have them. He young, 17-year-old fella, but excited. Let's watch Quincy. We'll be back after this break with our exciting Citizens of the Week and Citizens Arrest. We'll be back.
I'm here with Quincy Arthur. He is a 2010 graduate from C.R. Walker Senior High School. Quincy, my first question to you is this. How was your experience being here at this conference?
Well, my experience at this conference was indeed eye-opening. I mean, being around so many like-minded individuals has really opened my eyes to change. You know, I've begun to look at business and everything in a whole different mindset. You know, in short, my mind has just completely been transformed.
What do you think the future of the Bahamas is?
I mean, what I've seen, these individuals, I mean, like I said, they've opened my mind. So, I mean, despite whatever challenges our country is going through right now, I think we can still make it. I think we still have a bright future ahead of us. I mean, as a people, I mean, these people, these young men and women are really brilliant. I mean, they can showcase the future in the Bahamas in a way that the Bahamas ain't ready for right now. I mean,
Chrissy, I understand that you guys had a vote yesterday in terms of the FNM versus the PLP. And should there be a viable third party? Well, the outcome of the vote was that the majority of you guys said that you would not vote in the upcoming election. Would it just be the FNM and PLP? Should there be a viable third party? Do you think you would vote?
Well, if there was a viable third party, indeed I would vote. Because, I mean, okay, I'm a young individual at 17. And I can already truly say I'm tired of this, you know what I mean? From the age of 14, I watched as the PLP was embodied. Same old complaints, everyone tired of the PLP. FNM going to power, same thing. To me, I think the whole game of the politics need to be reinvented. I think there needs to be a new change.
So you're an advocate for change?
I'm an advocate for change, 100%.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Quincy Arthur, He is a graduate from C.R. Walker Senior High School.
Welcome back to Citizens Review. This week is the Independent Review, these yet-to-be independent islands of the Bahamas, where the wealth has yet to become common. Now, this is the fun portion of the show. I want to talk, and I would be remiss if I did not mention my Citizens of the Week, my dear and loving, the rock upon which I stand, the foundation, my mother, Sharon Smith Ferguson, who was born on July 9th, I ain't telling you all of that. But my mother is a beautiful woman. That's me and her in the place talking about the show and arguing about the concepts behind Citizens Review. My mother is my gem, my rock, my soul. And so her birthday as an Independence baby, I have to mention that. Also, my friend Felicia Seymour is born on Independence, and I have to mention that. So, ladies and gentlemen, my mother was also Miss Bahamas, 1975, and the first Bahamian to be on the cover of Jet magazine. And let me tell you, back in the day, that was carrying on bad. My mother, Sharon Smith Ferguson, happy birthday. There you have it. I did my children duty and did what I was supposed to do, so I ain't in no trouble. Now, the citizens' arrest. Let's wrap this up quick. This one easy. Mr. Perry Gladstone Christie. Last week was Ingram, bad PR, going to South Africa doing fool. This week, Perry Christie. These guys, they don't even give us space to not have somebody to arrest. One week I would like to just do a bunch of Citizens of the Weeks, but they just come and do a bunch of crap. Mr. Christie is in the front of all of the newspapers because he is the Member of Parliament for Farm Road. And all of us know that Farm Road is a difficult place to live. Mason's Additional Limb, that's a tough area. The Fort Hill included in that. But Mr. Christie was extended by Mr. Ingram $100,000 per year to spend as an MP to take care of your community. And for the last 2 years, Mr. Christie has spent $30-something thousand of the $200,000 that he got in the last 2 years. Mr. Christie, oh, come on. How ridiculous does it have to be before Mr. Ingram and Mr. Christie realize it's over? Like, you are in charge of Farm Road. The stigma attached to the PLP from the FNM is that y'all have been the members of Parliament for the poorest areas, the Black Belt of the Bahamas, all this time, and the Black Belt hasn't improved. And what do? So you get $200,000 from Ingram. He set you up, He set you right up. give you that money and you ain't spend it now. He say, see, you don't care about the people. I don't judge a man's intentions. Joe Biden taught me that, the Vice President of the United States. But, sir, when you don't spend the $200,000 in a community like Farm Road, what? Mr. Christie, this week, sir, you lock up. I just don't understand it, man. Anyway, that's our show for this week. Mr. Christie, get your act together. I mean, all y'all politicians, man. Just on Independence, you all should stay home. Let us celebrate and you all stay in your house and don't come outside because we ain't getting none from y'all. So, you know, don't bother us during Independence. Let us celebrate in peace and quiet. That's our show this week. Next couple of weeks, we can be coming to you from a barbershop. We can be traveling, going to Luther with the Citizens of the Year. So you can get to see a lot of us all over the Bahamas. We getting this show on the road. Got to get out of the studio and come to you, the citizens. Like we say every week, we are but dust, and to dust we shall return. So you might as well say what you got to say before you're dead. That's our show.